Welcome to another edition of the Gridiron Report. I'm Jared Johnson, and today I'm talking Texas Tech quarterbacks, which is always a popular topic, and right now is no different. I think all the talk centers around Baron Morton and that right throwing shoulder of his. Uh, First off, I just want to say I don't know for sure how healthy Baron Morton is. Here's what we've been told, and here's what we know, what we've seen, what's happened. Obviously, he had the grade three AC joint sprain of his throwing shoulder, which greatly hindered his throwing ability last year. Now, to Barron's credit, he, for the most part, as much as he was able to, tough through that injury. I don't know how he did it, to be honest. It's a real um, tribute to his toughness and his grit. Obviously, Tyler Shuck was injured. Um, Jake Strong thrown out there as a true freshman. I'm going to talk about him a little bit more in a minute. But, the team needed Barron to tough through a really difficult injury. That kind of injury to a quarterback's throwing shoulder. And he did it. And Tech won some big games in terms of getting bowl eligible, winning the bowl game against Cal. Did some good things down the end of the season after a disappointing start. And I don't know if they could have done that without Barron, showing that grit. So we know that about him. We know he posted that video or at least someone posted a video on Twitter of him throwing bombs here. This was in the last couple of weeks. Threw a couple 60-yard bombs. He didn't have pads on or anything like that, but just the fact that he's able to air it out like that is a good sign. He's seen various doctors, and it looked like the advice he was given was that surgery wouldn't necessarily help. So, he didn't have surgery. We know that he went through, I think, 6 or 7 practices at spring ball. And I saw him, and he was actually sitting out in some of the drills in those practices that he was actually throwing at, that he wouldn't take every rep that he normally would have. Um, but he looked all right from as much as you could tell in spring ball from the quarterback position. But he did sit out for over more than half, the second half of spring ball, which I think was probably a smart decision. But that tells you that obviously something's still going on. But everyone's saying all the right things. He's going to be healthy. I think Barron actually did tweet out those bombs, those deep passes, like 60-something yard passes he was throwing, saying see y'all August 31st, which, of course, is Tech's season opener against Abilene Christian at home at the new Jones, the renovated Jones AT&T Stadium. So we know that about him. We know he's a talented guy. I remember seeing him in high school. Mighty Joe Yeager and I went and saw him play at least 1 or 2 games. And, he's very athletic. He was a 4-star recruit, lead 11 guy. He's made some really nice plays in his time. That early on in his career, the game against Oklahoma State, he really showed his talent. And again, he's won some games, veteran guy. So I like Baron Morton. I think there's been some talk I've seen or reactions on social media, on not as much on Inside the Red Raiders, but still some that thinking that maybe I or the staff at Inside the Red Raiders aren't fans or don't believe in Baron Morton. That's not true. I think where we're being cautious is, or at least I'll speak for myself, where I'm being cautious is just, is he injured or not? If he's not hindered by that shoulder injury, if he's able to perform, then I think Baron Morton can be very successful. They retooled their receiving core, which that'll be a video for another day. I really like that. You got a all Big 12, maybe even all American running back in your backfield in Taj Brooks. I'll have to see how the offensive line goes. The tight end room is loaded. So he's got a lot of weapons. I do think Zach Kidley has a lot of potential as well, good staff. And I think Tech will have a good defense. So all that, is set up for Baron Morton to have a lot of success this year. If for whatever reason he does get injured, or just if Texas Tech, and I think they'll do this some, wants to show a different look, Cameron Brown, a 6'2", 230-pound transfer from West Georgia, is there. And he was named the backup quarterback coming out of spring ball, Coach McGuire said. And, he looked great in spring. I got to be honest. He's a much better passer. He possesses a much better arm than I would have thought. I thought he'd be primarily a running quarterback, and I think they will utilize him. in that aspect a lot. But I think he has a much better arm, and he's a more accurate than I would have thought too. I want to see what it looks like in a real game in terms of the pass rush bearing down on him against Division One secondaries. That's not guys that he sees every day at practice, and with defensive coordinators really scheming against him. But I think there's a lot of potential with Cameron Brown. He's a lot better in terms of potential than I would have thought. Jake Strong, who I already mentioned before, coming off his freshman season, he made a couple of really nice plays, especially I believe in that Kansas State game where he was thrown out there. He had that long run. Too many turnovers. Obviously, he really struggled, and a lot of people do. But his first start, I believe, was in Provo at BYU. And I'm not saying BYU was great, but a night game in BYU is historically and famously difficult, and certainly difficult for Jake Strong. We'll have to see how he's developed. But I really liked him coming out of high school. I think he has a good arm. He can run some. And I think he's a smart kid. So I really hope people haven't given up on Jake Strong. Now, that being said, I think Will Hemming might already be third on the depth chart. And that's the true freshman that enrolled early in the spring. Another Elite 11 former four-star recruit, put up just monster numbers at Hutto, Texas, just this past season. And he can run too. There was I saw it myself at practice in spring ball, and then also Texas Tech released some film where, obviously, if those quarterbacks get touched, they're ruled down. But guys weren't even touching him on a couple of runs. So I think overall, there's a lot of potential with this quarterback room, but a lot of inexperience. You have experience in Barron, not a ton of experience, but good experience with Barron Morton. But he's, obviously the injury concern. If he's healthy, obviously you feel a lot better about this room. I'm excited to see what he could do. I'm a huge fan of Barron Morton. I don't know how many times I interviewed him through the recruiting process, and then at least a couple of times since he's been at Tech. And he's by all accounts really cool dude, great guy. So obviously I'm rooting for him to have a lot of success. And I think if healthy, I think he has a very good chance to do so. Now, I think some of that may depend on the offensive line, of course. And again, that's a video coming up this summer previewing the season. I'll be talking about the offensive line. But for now, I want to thank you for watching, and until next time.